Welcome to Objections with Stan Willis. I'm Michael Morris with a man that has already been introduced. Daniel, how are you?
I'm doing great.
I'm going to talk about something that's rather serious in this country, and I think it's in front of everybody's mind, and I don't know that we're going to get away from it until we get an answer. And I want to talk about Free Britney. Hashtag Free Britney. I know that you have a lot of thoughts and tender feelings about it, but I want to compare the two things. Hashtag Free Britney and hashtag SOS Cuba. Which one is more important to your everyday life?
I think probably Free Britney.
I know that you love that music.
I do love.
I mean,
that,
Oops, I Did It Again really got me through school and a lot of relationships, and I could do that little dance thing like this, and it's been fantastic. But the other part has to do with politics.
You're talking about the politicization, right?
The politicization of SOS Cuba.
So we have to do this again. We've already had several shows where we can't pronounce that word.
Stan, there are children that will watch this now and in the future that will use this term and understand that we started this the proper way.
Okay.
And I want to get across the politicization of both things, because as you said, Elizabeth Warren and Matt Gaetz, who I would party with Matt Gaetz. I got to be honest with you. That guy seems to know where everything's going down, the drugs, the women, all that. And then Elizabeth Warren, one of the last faces of the Cherokee, they both have decided to, that's not funny. They both decided to jump in on this Free Britney thing as though this is a real cause.
Well, the thing that's amazing to me, and you know, I've had this discussion with several friends of mine. Our country right now is about as divided as it ever has been in my lifetime. I mean, there've been times. I mean, there have been times in the past. I think George W. was kind of divisive in his time, and there've been times when I remember the country being somewhat divided. But I've never seen it. Free Britney might be the thing that can bring our country together. I mean, when you have Matt Gaetz, who's like poster boy for the far right, and Elizabeth Warren, who is a little bit left of the left.
She's so far left that she's in China.
I mean, she's so far left that the people on the left are like, ooh.
Yeah, they're like, we like extreme, but not that much.
and the two of them are like showing up together, like holding hands and singing Free Britney and Kumbaya and everything. It's just amazing the unifying power that this cause has. It's almost shocking.
But don't you think that it shows you that the United States is really like Blockbuster in the last year of its existence, where you're just like, it's a hollowed out shell of entertainment and we don't really have any thoughts of our own. It's just everything that, what's the phrase, Andy Warhol, everyone gets their 15 minutes of fame.
Right. Everybody will be famous for 15 minutes.
And I think we're getting that, and we look at the Twitter timeline and you're getting about 5 minutes.
About 5, yeah.
But these things that are so extreme, like, I got to be honest with you. I didn't even know Britney Spears. I didn't know what was going on. I thought she was performing in Vegas or whatever. To see that she's gone through all of these
conservatorships.
Right. Like, but we've seen her shave her head. And first of all, walking into a bathroom barefoot at a gas station, at that point, you got to put her down, not conservatorship. I mean, you've got to get a sniper, take her apart. Like, this is like we're hunting the Taliban. You got to wear shoes, kids, in a gas station bathroom. She's not great at making decisions, right? So I know that that's wrong, but someone's going to have to watch her because we have no idea what's going on. But on the other side of things, when we have political things going on in Somalia, like we're bombing Somalia, for what purpose? I don't know. They must have like iPhones there and we want to take them. I have no idea what's going on. But that's what I don't understand is we are so quick to jump on this trend of a celebrity. If she got everything that she wanted and was released, no one would care about it. We didn't care about Whitney Houston when we knew that she was blowing snow up her nose constantly with Bobby Brown. We only were sad when she died before the Emmys.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And it seems that we have become this junk food culture where we're not really engaged with each other. So it's whoever we idolized when we were a kid. Let's chase that dragon.
And I would say that I think that things are exacerbated by social media and the immediacy of everything. But fundamentally, I think that for the most part, we just think about the things that the media puts in front of us, and for most of us, we don't think beyond that. And so, if the media is more interested in Britney's conservatorship than they are in the plight of people in Cuba or Venezuela or wherever, and they put that in front of us, then that's what we're all going to be thinking about.
Right.
Because we're not going to go look for any of these other causes to think about. And I think that the political folks obviously have caught on to this, or else they probably are leading the charge on this. So, I mean, even during presidential campaigns, I mean, it's all about slogans and sound bites,
Right.
and it's not really about what.
It's not about action. It's about verbiage.
It's not really about policy and the effect of that policy and what it's going to do and where they're going to go. It's really just about sound bites and appearances.
Right.
And we spend as a society a lot of time worrying about the things on the surface and not the things that are underneath. And
well, that kind of leads into when this show airs. This will probably be old news, but it's Simone Biles, right?
Right.
Everybody is jumping to her cause about mental health, and if you criticize her, you're anti-patriotic or that kind of thing. Now, I'll be honest. I don't watch any girl in a leotard that I'm not paying for her lessons to do so, right? So I don't care. That includes some high school girls, but I don't care about what's happening because I don't even understand the sport, right? So I'm not criticizing what you're doing. What I find odd is how within 8 hours, if you looked at the Washington Post, it was almost like they were ready to go in case things didn't work out. The politicization of this became a young black woman, the trauma that she went through, all that. Then they put that Osaka, whatever, that tennis player that she couldn't play in Wimbledon because mental issues, whatever. Mental issues are one thing. Mm-hmm. When you're not doing well, I don't think that's when you should bring that up.
Right.
If you're not doing well leading up to this, I completely understand it. Like Kyrie Irving, I think that guy literally is a mental case. Mm-hmm. But he will do something. He just provided water for like 11,000 people yesterday in a foreign country at his own expense.
Right.
Not for people to take his picture, all that. He just did. And you go, wow, that's an amazing thing.
Right.
But then he'll take 2 weeks off and no one can find him during the middle of the season because he needs a mental break.
Right.
I think we're starting to see some of that. But I think anytime that somebody makes a mistake now, they have a mental issue.
Right.
And I think it's skewing the people that really have mental issues in this country. So I look at the media building this up as these are heroes now because they quit or they didn't complete it or they lost or whatever. It used to be okay if you just lost. There didn't need to be a stigma. Like if the Celtics lost to the Lakers, I didn't go, well, Larry Bird must not be feeling well. Like up here. Sometimes you just lose. Sometimes you're not better than somebody. It just is fatiguing that you're using that as an excuse. But now politicians are jumping in and saying, we need more people like this. We used to turn around and say we wanted more people like Bruce Jenner. I know how funny that is to say now, but we used to say that guy was a hero.
Right.
Because no matter what, he won the gold, all this other stuff. Now we don't say that about him or her.
Yeah, and I think to your point, when you, I think mental health in this country is something that we've kind of ignored for a while. I think that for the most part, in the public world, for the longest time, if you had any kind of mental issues at all, it was just awful and you couldn't even talk about it. And I think that we probably have ignored the issues for a long time. And, you look at someone like Simone Biles. I mean, there's always something about someone that you don't know that's affecting what's going on. So, I'm not sure that we all have that we have all the information that would be needed to make some kind of a legitimate observation about what's going on in her world. Because there are lots of things that we don't know about. So I on the one hand, I don't think it's fair necessarily for anybody to come out and either criticize or applaud what's going on. I think that probably what's happening with Simone Biles is very personal to her, and the fact that she's in the public eye now makes that kind of a public thing. But I don't think it's something that should be politicized, and I don't think that she should either be made a hero or a victim by the media over this whole thing.
But don't you think we're overexposed because we shouldn't even know that's an issue?
Right.
And so we know everything about these people that they put out, and then it's the media jumps on it. I just thought it was because you don't have to wait to write a story, get it approved by an editor, and get it printed. You can just go to print like that.
Right.
What I think you're going to see down the line, that you're going to see horrible stories that are countering this narrative, but we don't hold their feet to the fire. Like the tennis player, that Osaka, she was so bothered mentally, and she just needed time away in her $35 million home in Beverly Hills.
Right.
She's on the cover of Sports Illustrated, the swimsuit issue, 2 weeks later. You're seeing this. You're not doing well here, or the rule, you don't like what they're doing. Like, she didn't want to talk to the media, so she pulls out. Mm-hmm. I understand that. You want to be away from the media. Don't be in a swimsuit on a cover that people you actually used to read, right? So it doesn't make any sense. But when you jump in and you make this a hypersensitive issue, like we should all be paying attention to this.
Right.
You're ignoring the other people. So the rest of the team that has to compete because you pull out, they get a silver. So it's okay now because the U.S. should have dominated that event. And again, I don't care who wins. But when you don't deliver the result, you go, but it's because we didn't have LeBron, so we had to play with his cousin Larry, and we lost, right? So it's easier to do that.
Right.
I just look at it and say, what are we teaching kids? Take her out of it. Take the tennis player out of it. If it's constantly, you can say, well, I wasn't having my best day. I'm not having my best day on this show right now. Right. I mean, it's quite obvious. But if we all did that, if we were all able to say, hey, I can't do that at work, right? So Clay Travis, I just watched some of his stuff on YouTube because I think it's extremely harsh. And so, you know how you like to go, I wonder if I slam my hand in the car door, how does that feel? That's what that show is. So he calls her a quitter right away. And then they attack him. Right? Well, what did that do for him? It raised the awareness of his brand. So it's another hashtag cancel Clay Travis, which is what he wanted for more people to see it.
Wanted in the first place, right?
We listen to too many people that don't even know what's going on. Right. And that's how whichever side I agree with, I'm going with.
Right.
But I find it funny that when somebody falters, as long as you go, there was a reason behind it, and I can glom onto that. If Simone Biles came here today, they'd all want to be around her. If it's after an election in 2025, they're not going to care. Because you know what they're saying? You mean the girl that quit the Olympics? That's what I think is absolute garbage. But we're, the SOS Cuba thing, we don't even pay attention to that, right?
And so I think that's part of like what I'm saying. We don't pay attention to mental health in this country in the whole in the whole. And so we have people. I mean, nobody's talking about it, but the crime rate this year is through the freaking roof.
I haven't noticed. I got mugged before I came in, but I haven't noticed anything else.
It's the murder rate, the violent crime rate in the entire country is just skyrocketing. And I mean, yeah, some of that might be economy and stuff like that, but some of that's just mental health and the effects of what we did in response to the pandemic and all those kinds of things. And we're not addressing that And then we have, sports figures who, I mean, in the world of life and death struggles, that's not a critical feature. It's not, sports. I mean, I don't think that sports are unimportant, but I also don't think that anyone's going to die if a particular
if they
athlete,
did, could you imagine the ratings? I would tape that. I would get a VCR tape and make sure I never lost it.
But so I guess on the one hand, if you do draw attention to an issue, and so we address it, I guess that's potentially a good thing. I'm just not sure that the kind of attention that's being drawn is going to actually affect the things that need to be affected.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because what I was thinking is during the pandemic, when they were going to pass every couple of days we just pass a few $1 trillion without even telling anybody what's in it. And there was Jimmy Dore was saying to withhold their vote, because if they withheld 7 votes, they could have pushed for Medicare for all. I'm not saying I'm an advocate, because I don't really understand when the insurance business is run like a business. It's not to the benefit of the person who has insurance, right? We're not taking care of people's mental health because there's no money in it, right? Or you couldn't afford to pay the extra premiums to do so. So you have a revolving door of a problem. If I'm looking at it and I'm saying from an insurance standpoint, do I even want to get into that? Because if this guy goes out and robs a liquor store and kills 10 people, but he was under our supervision, we got him counselors and all this other stuff, and we took care of it, we're ignoring the people that are at the lowest end of the ladder.
Right.
But we're praising the people who are at the highest end, saying they're having mental issues. They can take time off. They have money. They have material things. But we're ignoring the poverty line, where the mental issues are harder. As you know, I'm not saying as you know, being a homeless person, but if you always are worried about somebody taking your house or your car or where your kids eat, it is taxing on you. And we ignore the poor. And that's where those crimes are happening, is a lot of times, like we talked about when we just go to lunch, a lot of crimes that are happening are out of necessity, right? I need it. I need it for me or my wife or my kids.
They're partly out of necessity, but a lot of them are, I mean, a lot of the violence is just because of, I mean, it's mental health. I mean, you have people with nothing else to do,
right?
who are behaving. I mean, shoplifting is probably something you do out of necessity.
Right.
Shooting somebody on the head in the street, or
the extreme,
or beating an old couple, like just happened. I mean, an elderly couple that just got beaten by it was a man and 3 women. Anyway.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that kind of violent outbreak is. Those are people with something wrong with them.
Okay, but I want to ask you this question. So when they're beating up, there are 3, let's just say not nice people, beating up 2 elderly people. Is that a mental issue, or is that just horrible people? Because I think you have to have a mental issue
or maybe both.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think you have to have something mentally wrong to be able to turn that switch and say, I'm going to beat up this old lady. But Barbara Boxer in California, she got mugged. Right. I mean, this is a person in California where the crime rate is crazy. She gets mugged, but she didn't want anything done about it. She just said, I just would like my purse back, and I was a little shaken up. Because if she says the right thing, where find them, prosecute them, all that other stuff, it takes away from the message of we shouldn't be putting people in jail. And the other thing is, during the pandemic, we couldn't have people get sick in close quarters, so just let them all free. And then if you guys would just be kind enough to come back. We don't know how many people are out there that maybe they committed small felonies, carjackings or whatever.
Small felonies. Not
yeah.
Not the big felonies.
I mean, I wouldn't marry somebody who had more than 2 or 3 felonies, but
sure you would.
I have before. But I also look at it and say, if we're on the honor system with criminals, maybe we're doing something wrong as a society, right?
Right. Well, to get back to back to where I think the point started. I don't know like I said, we don't know everything that's going on with Simone Biles, but I'm not sure that the publicity that's coming from that is necessarily a good thing. Conversely, I don't know if you've seen the commercials that the Indianapolis Colts have done.
Oh, I thought you meant Colts like L. Ron Hubbard.
No.
Because I'm in that group. Just because they give away a T-shirt if you sign your life away.
You and Tom Cruise.
It's a large shirt. I need an extra large, but I didn't want to haggle with them.
You get politicization on it.
I want to get the spaghetti monster, which I just was talking to Nate about the other day. That's a real religion. Yeah. But you were saying the Indianapolis Colts.
Like the commercial that they do with Jim Irsay on there saying, this is an issue, and we just want people to feel confident to have their issues addressed. And then I forget which player is on there. But I think that's probably, that public service announcement is probably in the right vein for where you want to go, because it's kind of encouraging people, go out and get this addressed if you've got this issue. I don't see how what we're doing to Simone Biles, I don't see how that's helpful.
I think that amplifies the problem. That's almost like, Stan, I really hate your hair. Let me get a bunch of pictures of it.
Right.
You're not squelching it. You're magnifying it to, if I was in that state, I would like you to not talk about it more. That's where I think it's disingenuous, where people are, because if you look at it again, when I was reading the articles where she wasn't doing as well as she was doing anyway. So she already wasn't going to get a gold. So she could have got a gold like as a team award in the finals, but that's not what she's there for. That's where I look at it and say, I think at some point you're going to see her teammates. You've seen 8 Men Out, right?
I have.
Okay, so the Black Sox, they end up throwing the World Series because some guys were getting paid to throw it, blah, blah, blah. I think what you're going to see is the reports a year or two from now where people are going to go, yeah, and then they were doing this and this and this, and she was, complaining. That's why I don't think we should make somebody a hero overnight. Let's wait to see what the full story is. And I'm not saying she did that.
Honestly, I don't think she's a hero or a victim at this point. I think that she's somebody who probably needs some help.
Right.
And she should get the help. And then, time has a way of bringing facts to bear. Things will come out and things will happen. But, where we started with all this stuff is all of us sitting here, loudly proclaiming our opinions about what's going on and what kind of person she is. I mean, unless you've met her and walked that mile, I don't think it's helpful,
right,
to the situation. And I think that the media, frankly, I think that the media has been
I think it's been disingenuous the way that they're covering this.
Maybe disingenuous. I was thinking more, this is just mass negligence. What should have been reported is Simone Biles left the competition. She walked out with a doctor. We don't know what's going on. That's still, as far as I know, from a fact standpoint, what we know.
Right.
And pretty much everything else is just conjecture. So, this is people saying things to get people to listen to them and get ratings, when sooner or later it'll all come out, and at the end of the day, the person who has to live with the decisions that are made is Simone Biles, not me.
Well, I think what strengthens that argument is that all her sponsors are standing by her. So they're still going to pay her, is what they're saying. So at the end of the day, she didn't lose anything.
No, and did she let her teammates down? Probably, but that's between her and her teammates. That's not my business.
Right.
And did she? I mean, you just don't know what she's personally dealing with. You don't know what kind of trauma she may have had. You just don't know, and it's hard for us to sit here and criticize someone for that. And there are things that happen to people are damaging that they need to have addressed. And as a country, we should be trying to help people address these things. And then there's the hidden element that nobody ever talks about, and that's the element of personal responsibility.
Right.
Because even if you have or are dealing with some form of mental illness, you still have personal responsibility in addressing that. I mean, if you, it's like what they talk about in all of the drug rehab and alcoholic rehab things. Sure, this is an addiction. This is difficult. This is hard for you. You need help. But at the end of the day, if you're not willing to at least help yourself somewhat, it can't be fixed. And I kind of suspect that most mental issues are kind of along the same veins. If you once you know that you're depressed or you have some other mental illness, if you're not willing to get the treatment, if you're not willing to seek help, there's nothing that we can do about it, really.
That's a good point. I just think that people are the news cycle is so abused. It's only news for a little while. I want clicks. I want views, which is what we want on this show, by the way, also. So
Clicks and views.
We should have said some horrible things in here. I think that I did in the beginning. So I think we're covered there.
You said something horrible? What'd you say?
Gas station bathroom, no flip-flops. Come on. Seriously.
Well,
you can't defend that, Stan. You can say whatever you want, but that is the worst thing I've ever heard of.
She doesn't do a lot to help herself.
No, but again, that's why she's being caged up.
If you have a $60 million empire, she's done something right.
The next show we're going to do is on cleanliness and how to properly clean tile. You've been listening to Objections with Stan Willis, and we will see you next week.